Well, good afternoon. Thank you for joining me on our kind of middle of the holidays week. I wanted to just talk about four things that are kind of a big deal this week in real estate. Now, the first one that I want to talk about is the market. It's, very all-encompassing, but please watch the headlines. Demand remains way above normal. It has fallen slightly from the peak in November, but it's causing all kinds of headlines to come out saying, oh no, the sky is falling. The sky is not falling. Our demand is at the highest level it's been in 9 years. Inventory is maybe at the lowest that it's been in like at least 20 years, because that's as far as the data I got, but it's low. Just to keep that in mind, you think about it we're 20% down just from this time last month and 51% down in active inventory than where we were a year ago. I mean, that means there's like 6,300 listings on the market right now. We could totally handle like 20,000 more listings hitting the market tomorrow. That would make us in a much more, kind of normal balanced market. And even looking at it, if nationwide, there are, under 450,000 single family residences on the market. That's like nothing. That's the whole country. And, remember, the market is cyclical, and it is normal for activity to go down a little bit at the holidays. I apologize for my dog who's crying. It is, normal for holidays for the cycle to go down a little bit as people are focusing on some other things. But, you got to look at what's good for a market is to have some stability, and we would like to have some stability. So seeing some cyclical, things happening is very good for us. We could totally use that. And then when you want to think about, on the new homes, so there's still new homes have declined a little bit from mid-November to mid-December. Usually we see it go down like 25% in activity just during that 1 month. This year, it's down a little bit, not quite 25%, but we are actually ahead of where we were 12 months ago at over 20% ahead in that activity. So year over year, we're still seeing tons. In existing homes, we've got 25% more listings in escrow than we did a year ago. So, remember, we've got all these good things happening. Our market is continuing to move. That moves me into the second point I want to make, and it's kind of the population, migration, things like that. And it kind of also connects into one of the biggest challenges from talking about what do we see in that first section that I mentioned is it's causing, low supply, high demand. Prices go up. So prices have gone up 17% year over year for right now. So that's a lot, that's going to be our biggest challenge is national affordability, or just, affordability in general, because that price appreciation at some point, sometimes the buyers are like, okay, I've had enough. We don't want to get to that point. We want to keep it where we have a slower rate of appreciation, keep our buyers engaged. Now, one thing to keep in mind too is over the last 10 years, there's been massive underbuilding for population, and that's happened across the country. Now you combine that with the low inventory we already have, and we have different, in the population growth. Now the full census numbers are not going to come out until March, which I'm really excited about. But the preliminary numbers for 2020 are in, and Arizona's population actually grew about 105,000 people, and it was actually 2020 actually had fewer people who moved to Arizona than we did in 2018 and 2019. So it's, the population growth has been continuing while the building has been very low. Just talking a little bit more about population, if you look at over the past 10 years, Arizona has about 890,000 new residents that came to the state. Now, about 80% of those actually moved to Greater Phoenix area. So we're looking at like 712,000 have moved to Greater Phoenix in the last 10 years. Again, putting some pressure on that housing. Some interesting things too is the further data shows that mass exodus that everybody was talking about is going to shake up this whole country hasn't been quite as compounded as everybody thought. Less than 1% of the population, the biggest cities left the city. But if you look at the homeowners who moved this year in the 50 biggest cities in the country, 84% of them stayed in that particular city. So really most of them are still staying in there, and that's pretty typical. The third thing I want to talk about, which I think is pretty big deal, is yesterday the president signed that $900 billion relief bill that we were talking about for all of last week as well. So that's really good news, because now things can start happening, and we can move forward without just wondering what's going to happen. Are we going to have a shutdown, fun stuff like that. So some of the key points is there will be a stimulus check, expanded unemployment programs will be extended through April 19th, and then the additional 300 in weekly benefits is extended through March 14th. There's additional funding in PPP, and the extension of the eviction moratorium is now through end of January, which that's not new to the bill. But the biggest news that I want to talk about is the $25 billion that are going towards rental assistance, which will allow landlords to apply for funds to cover rents, even in arrears, utilities and other housing costs that have not been paid. So this is really good for the landlords, because the majority of landlords are mom and pop investors, not those big companies. One thing that was not addressed in the stimulus bill is forbearance timelines. So that was not addressed at all, although last week the FHA did announce a 2-month extension on both the foreclosure and moratorium, the foreclosure moratorium and forbearance initiation, which basically means that borrowers, as long as they have an FHA loan, can get started on their initial forbearance plan. They can get started by February 28th, 2021. So that gives them an extra 2 months, but it's only FHA. So anybody else struggling with your mortgage, any other struggling borrowers, they need to get started on their forbearance plan by the end of the day on Thursday. We don't have much time. The last thing I want to talk about, just a couple newsworthy items. Last week, another commission-based class action lawsuit was filed. This time it did not name NAR, but it did name a local MLS. This is in Massachusetts, and other industry giants like Realogy, Keller Williams, Remax. So, things like that. A local luxury builder, Camelot Homes, will now allow you to basically take a test drive of, a property. They are calling it their stay and play experience in their new community they're building in Desert Mountain and North Scottsdale. Houses are starting at 1.4 million. And then finally, I just want to say, 2021 is expected to be another big year for mergers and acquisitions. We should expect more IPO or companies going public through IPO or SPACs. So there's going to be a lot of, continued movement. We're looking forward to 2021, kind of get closer to that light at the end of the tunnel. So I would just want to say Happy New Year to everybody out there. And we're definitely looking forward to seeing you again in 2021. Bye-bye.